Hi, Jim again. Today we're going to talk about how to land that dream job. Now, two things to keep in mind. First, it's not that hard. Second, it all begins with your resume. And the time to start thinking about your resume is once you have decided on your college major.
You know, I majored in public speaking in college.
So, if you start your resume at the time you are accepted in your college major, then every time you do something that deals with your major and that is resume worthy, such as joining a student organization or getting an internship, you can list that on your resume as soon as it takes place, instead of waiting until you're ready to apply for a job and then trying to remember everything you did for the past few years to put on your resume.
When you wait until the last minute.
Plus, doing it this way works as a motivational tool, and that it's really rewarding to see how your career is progressing as you continue to list items on your resume. Therefore, use that notification of your acceptance into your major
Pre-med. What's the difference?
as your signal to start your resume. Obviously, you picked a particular field because you want to work in that specific area. Therefore, the next logical step is where in that field do you want to work. In fact, you may have selected that particular field because you know someone who works at a company in that field. Is that the same company that you want to work for? Is it a competitor company? The reason that the company is so important is the same reason you need to have specific goals. Vague goals are useless. Specific goals will get you on track to go exactly where you want to go. Therefore, once you have determined the exact company or potential companies in which you want to work, now is the time to start establishing a relationship with that company or other companies in that field. You might be thinking, I'm going to declare my major my freshman year in college. Is he out of his mind? No, I'm not out of my mind. Okay, maybe just a little bit. But by relationship, I mean that you start off slowly by contacting the HR manager and simply say that you want to work for their company after you graduate from college, and ask them what are the types of skills that I should be working on in the next 4 years so that I can work for their company after I graduate. This is a fairly low pressure conversation for both you and the HR manager. Then it's important to follow up on that conversation with a nice email or handwritten note that says thank you. And then guess what happens at the end of your first semester? There's a holiday break. That's a perfect time for you to send the HR manager a holiday card and just mention that you successfully completed
That's easy for you to say.
your first semester in college. Again, this is a low pressure situation on your end and no pressure on their end. The idea is to begin establishing a relationship by keeping in contact with the HR manager, because this person can tell you what you need to work on in order to get the position that you want at their company. Most will say things like, well, you should do an internship during your junior or senior year. However,
I knew there was a but.
rather than waiting until your junior or senior year, I suggest that you ask them if you can volunteer at their company, maybe during the summer months, doing whatever they need. Again, this is a low pressure situation on your end. You're not asking them for a job. It's low pressure on their end. They think, well, I can wait till the summer rolls around before I have to get back to them, and it's free labor. So why would you want to work for free at a company? Well, for one thing, it gets your foot in the door at that company. More importantly, it gets your foot in the door in that industry.
This is important stuff, very important.
Doing so gives you insight as to whether you really want to work at that company or even in that industry. Second, if you really work really hard and a part-time job opens up at that company, do you think they're going to hire someone from the outside they know nothing about, or someone who has been working at the company, who's dependable, works hard, and has been working for free? Once again, as I already alluded to, this is a great resume builder. The best case scenario is that once you graduate, you've been working or volunteering and doing an internship at that company, and at the end of 4 years you have your degree and there's a job that opens up and you get full-time employment there. However, the worst case scenario is not that bad either. The worst case scenario might be that they don't have any openings at their company and you have your degree. So do you think you have just wasted 4 years? Absolutely not. You still have 4 years of work experience at a company. You know the HR manager fairly well. And so the worst case scenario is that you have experience and a solid reference from an HR manager in the industry in which you want to work. Keep in mind, most people in industries know each other, especially HR managers. So if there's an opening at another company, chances are the HR manager knows the HR manager at that company where there's an opening. Remember, it's all about relationships and putting in the work.